Hey guys, welcome to the next video where we are going to be tackling the harness now for the controls that will go into the back of the steering wheel and plug into the original S197 clock spring. Now, very simply put, if you look at the these are each of the switches from the S550 on the left, and then over here is the connector for the S197 on the right. And what I've done is I've listed out what is the actual pin number on the actual switch and what pin number does it go on the C2274B connector. I've tried to color code it as well to make it kind of straightforward, easy to understand and follow. So the way you would read this is, pin number 4 on the phone or on the Bluetooth control will go into pin number 3 on the C2274B. You can see here that's the Bluetooth feed, and then number 5 goes to number 5 here, which is the return. Now remember, on the Bluetooth, I connect all 3 of those lines into one because this is the one that's still 3 separate controls. Remember, it works, but you'll want to combine those together into one particular, let's say, crimp connector that will then go into the one single feed on the C2274. The one thing to call out here on the S197 is that the horn does have a feed in on pin 1. The ground for the horn is shared with the illumination ground, so we'll make sure we get that wired up correctly so that the horn will work as well. The one thing to call out is the way the horn works in the S197 is a little bit different than the S550. The S197, the horn mechanism, the actual mechanical component to the horn, sits inside the steering wheel and gets wired inside the steering wheel, while the S550, I believe, the horn actually sits inside the airbag component. So what you'll do is you'll have an actual connector when you do the S550, whereas with the S197 you won't have a connector. But we're not worried about that because just make sure you source this connector or you're going to have to hardwire it in, and I'm sure you don't want to do that. So with that being said, you can see I've broken this into the 4 key components. So the Bluetooth controls, the cruise controls, the information controls, and the media controls. What you'll also notice is that while the Bluetooth control has 3 wires that are going to be combined into one, the cruise controls, although it did have that, remember, we turned that into a full resistance ladder, and so we only need 1 feed and 1 return. Do not connect these or it will cause problems because you'll end up with parallel circuits that are going to just short out the system. So just stay away from those 2 wires. Don't connect them. Only connect these 2 as you will to the controller. So with that being said, let's switch over to the actual harness. So what you'll see is I've done some pre-wiring here. So I have a couple things already set. I tried to color code this similar to what you saw before on the screen, which was the blue is for the Bluetooth control. The brown is for the information control. These are the 2 things on the right side of the steering wheel. And then we have our violet. Our violet is our media control. That's this one here. And I tried to color code these wires. And finally, green over here is for our cruise control. Okay, so just getting a little bit more detailed here, notice that on the information control, there's simply 4 wires coming in and out, a feed and a return, and our illumination feed and return. What you see in here, yellow is all illumination, black is all the ground. Now, the Bluetooth, I mentioned this before, but I'll say it again. You see there's multiple blue wires coming out of here. They all come together in one crimp connector. And this one single crimp connector is what goes and feeds into the actual connector, which will go into your clock spring. When we look at the cruise control, now when I first started this, I did have all 3 of those lines, because remember, I didn't start out with a full resistance ladder. I had all 3 of those lines coming out into this connector, and that would allow them to operate. But since I don't need that anymore, I've taken them out, and for the sake of, just for now, I'm going to bend them back and then leave them off to the side here, so that in case they're ever needed, they can be used. But for the sake of this activity, I don't need them. I'm just going to set them to the side. We have our violet, which is our audio controls, and once again, there's only wires, a feed and a return coming out of that, so that's that. And then finally down here we have our horn, which goes into its own connecting pin down here, and that's that. So the reason I wanted to show you this, guys, is I wanted to get this all wired up. I'm going to bundle it together with some electrical tape and get ourselves all set up. So let's all right, guys, if you saw a small break there in the video, that's because I was looking for my electrical tape. I couldn't remember where I put it. All right, so now they do make wire loom for this. I don't have any left over from an earlier project, so this is just going to be a quick time of me actually wrapping these up. Mainly because I don't want them to get tangled with one another, because multiple times that has already happened. All right, well, skipping ahead, now you guys can see that the harness is done. I've basically taped it all up around the outsides here, and we will go ahead and get it set up. Try to make sure you do them one at a time. It's going to make it a lot easier. Obviously, I have this big bundle here because I am not very good at measuring wires, and so a lot of the wire is kind of coiled up in there. But what you'll do is you'll take the back part off of your steering wheel. Now, if you don't have paddle switches, this will be covered, so you won't have the holes here. But what you're going to do is you're going to take the center of the harness, you're going to line it up right in the middle here, then you're going to feed these across underneath the screws. Then you'll have, the The 4-pin connector is going to be the one that comes out in the top part because that's your, I believe, your information control. Okay, so I'll just stick that there for now. This is the one that's going to stick out of the bottom right because this is going to be my Bluetooth control. On the opposite side, we're going to do the same thing. Feed this through and around. Then we'll have our audio control. We'll put it through there for now. And then our cruise control will just stick off to the side here, just like this. And then this right here is going to obviously be what goes to the clock spring, and this piece here is for the horn. So now that we have that, we can take a look at the actual steering wheel, and it's going to be set up very similarly. So we'll have our connectors over here. Now this connector has a couple extra because this is the one with the paddle switch, but I'm going to feed this through. Take this out. Now the only thing is this harness has a thermistor because it's for a heated steering wheel, so I am just going to ask you guys to bear with me one moment while I disconnect that thermistor. Set this to the side and work on this here, just so you guys can see it. It might make this a little bit, make what I'm doing make a little bit more sense. Now be very careful because I wasn't, and I ended up poking myself. Okay, so that one's out. So now my steering wheel doesn't have any harness on it. So now we'll take this. We're going to sit this on top. I'm going to take my heated element and stick it to the side. Now again, your steering wheel probably won't have these two switches here, the heating element and this, if you're going this route. If you are, just ignore them. You can put them down. So we want to take this, feed it up through this hole. The same thing with the horn. We're going to feed it through the hole in the middle. And then we're going to slowly lower this in, making sure that our harness doesn't go crazy. We'll take our audio, we'll stick it through here. Sorry, that's information control. Our audio is over here. We'll take it through here. This one will stay behind the metal because it's going to stick out through this little hole on the side. So then we're going to push these nubs on the back in over here to kind of lock in the steering wheel. We'll do that on the two sides in the middle. And that's pretty much it. So now when I go to install the steering wheel, I have my connector. This is the S197 connector. So all you'll do is you'll turn and plug it back in straight. The clock spring will be through there. And that will pretty much set you up. So here's a clock spring. So let's say that's it. These airbag connectors are going to feed through. Airbag connectors are feeding through. This will sit right on the clock spring. So I'll show you the nubs. These yellow nubs fit right in on the steering wheel. And then all you have to do is you take this connector and you're going to plug it straight down into that. You'll make sure your wires are as flat as possible down here so they don't interrupt anything. And then you would be plugging in. Now, if you're doing this, you will have to source yourself the correct connectors for the whatever model of airbag you get. So one thing to keep in mind is that the airbag is different between the 15 to 17 and the 18 to 23. So that's something to keep in mind. I don't have my, oh yeah, so the clock spring is here. This is the S550 clock spring, and you'll notice these connectors are different. So bear in mind, you will need to swap those out if you're going to go with with the newer steering wheel. So that's it. Now I have this all set up. So what I'm going to do next is I am going to connect this. I'm probably going to put this whole thing all back together with everything except for the airbag. I don't have one yet. I'm still working on that, so we won't be able to test the horn, but at the very least, we will be able to test the switches. So looking forward to that. All right, guys. Catch you in the next one. See ya.